They sold a human girl like property, then learned what humanity really is. The merchandise. The chrome platform felt cold beneath Zara Voss's bare feet as she stood before 1,000 alien eyes, each one evaluating her like a piece of livestock. The auction hall of Nexus Prime stretched out in tiered circles, a cathedral of commerce where sentient beings were reduced to lot numbers and profit margins. Bioluminescent advertisements flickered along the curved walls, hawking everything from synthetic organs to combat stimulants, their alien text crawling like living things across polished surfaces. Lot 847, the auctioneer's voice reverberated. Through the translation matrix, its melodic tones hiding the cruelty beneath. The creature resembled a fusion of mantis and hummingbird, its iridescent wings beating rapidly as it hovered above the crowd. Fresh acquisition from the human frontier worlds. Kepler 442b mining colony raid, 17 standard cycles ago. Zara's auburn hair fell in waves around her shoulders, deliberately unkempt to suggest wildness rather than the careful planning it actually concealed. Her green eyes scanned the crowd with apparent defiance, though she was actually cataloging security, positions, exit routes, and the nervous habits of potential buyers. The simple gray shift they'd dressed her in was designed to be easily removed for inspection, another degradation in a long chain of calculated humiliations. A Vorthak trader in the front row clicked his mandibles appreciatively. His species prized human endurance for their deep space mining operations, working their slaves until their bones cracked under the strain of heavy gravity worlds. Beside him, a silken aristocrat draped in living fabric whispered to her companion, no doubt discussing the aesthetic possibilities of human decoration. Notice the unmarked skin, the auctioneer continued, banking left to give the crowd a better view. No augmentations, purely organic. Recent medical scans confirm optimal breeding parameters and exceptional psychological resilience scores. The word breeding made Zara's stomach clench, but she kept her expression neutral. She'd practiced this mask during 17 days of captivity, perfecting the balance between spirited defiance that suggested she wouldn't break easily and underlying fear that convinced buyers she could ultimately be controlled. The performance was crucial to her plan. A new voice boomed from the middle tier, thick with the artificial harmonics of a hegemony vocoder. What are her technical specifications? Zara's pulse quickened. She recognized the voice before she spotted its owner, Thex Meridian, arms dealer to half the outer rim and collector of exotic weapons. His cybernetic implants gleamed silver against his blue-black carapace, and his forearms gestured with mechanical precision. He was exactly who she'd hoped would attend this auction. The auctioneer consulted its datapad. Minimal technical education. Colony records indicate basic mechanical aptitude, nothing more. Suitable for manual labor, domestic service, or recreational purposes. Meridian's secondary arms folded skeptically. Display her hands. The auction assistant, a nervous flutari with trembling antennae, gestured for Zara to raise her hands. She complied slowly, letting them see the calluses on her palms and the faint scars across her knuckles, evidence of a hard life in the mines. What they couldn't see were the microscopic modifications beneath her skin, the neural enhancement chips smaller than dust motes, or the quantum processor embedded in her left molar. But Meridian saw something else. His enhanced vision caught details others missed, the precise angle of her scars, the specific pattern of tool marks on her fingertips, the way her index finger curved slightly from years of working with delicate circuitry. Those aren't mining scars, he announced, his voice cutting through the crowd's murmur. Show me her left wrist. The assistant hesitated until Meridian's threat display, a warning pattern of lights across his carapace, made the decision for him. He grabbed Zara's wrist, twisting it to reveal a faint mark she'd hoped the medical scanners had missed. Plasma. Torch burn, Meridian declared with satisfaction. Precision work. This one's an engineer. The crowd's interest intensified immediately. Engineers were worth 50 times more than manual laborers, especially human engineers with their species' notorious ability to jury-rig impossible solutions from scrapped parts. Zara felt the shift in energy, the predatory focus sharpening on her like a laser sight. She'd counted on this moment, planned for it, but it still sent ice through her veins. Everything depended on the next few minutes. Bidding starts at 50,000 Galactic Standard, the auctioneer announced, wings beating faster with excitement. The Vorthak trader opened with a conservative bid, but Meridian immediately doubled it. A consortium representative joined with a figure that made several spectators gasp. The price climbed rapidly as various factions recognized the value of a human engineer, a species known for turning garbage into gold and making the impossible merely improbable. Zara maintained her facade of frightened defiance while internally tracking each bidder. The consortium would work her to death in their shipyards. The hegemony would turn her into a living component in their war machines. But Meridian collected weapons, and humans were the galaxy's finest weapon makers. As the bidding reached astronomical heights, she caught Meridian studying her face with disturbing intensity. His enhanced sensors were reading her biometrics, searching for tells, for the microscopic reactions that would reveal her true thoughts. She fed him exactly what he wanted to see: intelligence trying to hide behind fear, pride wrestling with desperation, and underneath it all the spark of innovation that made human engineers so valuable. When the price hit 2 million credits, the other bidders began dropping out. The consortium representative shook his head and activated his privacy field. The Vorthak trader clicked his mandibles in disappointment and turned his attention to the next lot. Soon only Meridian remained, facing a final challenge from a silken collector who saw Zara as the ultimate exotic acquisition. 3,500,000, Meridian declared, his voice carrying the finality of an execution order. The silken hesitated, her living garments shifting colors to reflect her uncertainty. Finally, she bowed gracefully and withdrew. Her bid. Sold to Thex Meridian, the auctioneer announced. Lot 847, one human engineer, adult female, 3,500,000 Galactic Standard credits. As the neural control collar was fastened around Zara's neck, she allowed herself a small secret smile. The first phase was complete. She'd successfully placed herself in the hands of one of the most dangerous arms dealers in the galaxy, the man responsible for supplying weapons to the fleets that had burned her homeworld. The collar's neural interface activated, sending tendrils of alien technology into her nervous system. It would monitor her thoughts, suppress aggressive impulses, and deliver punishment for disobedience. What it couldn't detect were the quantum-encrypted partitions in her mind, the hidden spaces where her true mission waited like a coiled serpent. Meridian's security detail, 4 heavily armed Kresh warriors with cybernetic enhancements, formed an escort around her as she was led from the platform. Their boss followed at a distance, already speaking into a private communicator, probably arranging for additional security measures aboard his fortress ship. As they passed through the auction house's corridors, Zara memorized every detail: guard rotations, security sensors, the subtle vibrations that indicated hidden weapon emplacements. Her enhanced neural processing recorded everything while her surface thoughts remained focused on the degradation of her situation, the fear of what awaited her. The transport bay held Meridian's personal shuttle, a sleek predator of a ship designed more for intimidation than comfort. As she was secured in the passenger compartment, restraints locking around her wrists and ankles, Zara caught sight of Nexus Prime's main docking bay through the porthole. Somewhere out there in the vast darkness between stars, her brother Jackson was waiting with the remainder of the human fleet. Their homeworld was gone, their colonies scattered, but humanity endured. And now, thanks to her successful infiltration, they finally had a chance to strike back at the heart of the alien weapons trade. The shuttle's engines ignited, carrying her toward Meridian's fortress ship and the next phase of a Plan 17, years in the making. As Nexus Prime fell away beneath them, Zara closed her eyes and began the mental countdown to humanity's revenge. They thought they'd bought a slave. Instead, they'd purchased their own destruction. The Revelation Commander Jackson Cross stood in the observation deck of the stealth cruiser Retribution, watching the massive silhouette of Meridian's fortress ship through the tactical display. The apex hung in space like a metallic tumor, its hull bristling with enough firepower to level a moon. For 3 weeks, his sister had been trapped inside that floating prison, playing her dangerous game while he prepared for the most audacious rescue mission in human history. "Quantum signature confirmed," reported Lieutenant Torres from the communications station. "Zara's still alive and the beacon is active. She's in the engineering section, level 7. Jackson's jaw tightened. Level 7 was where Meridian kept his weapon development labs, a maze of testing chambers and fabrication units where captured engineers were forced to design instruments of destruction. The neural collars ensured compliance, or so the aliens believed. They had no idea that human determination could override any form of technological coercion. "Sir," Torres continued, her voice dropping to a whisper, "we're receiving a data burst from her position, uploading to tactical now." The holographic display updated, revealing detailed schematics of the Apex's interior systems. Zara had been busy during her captivity, using her hidden neural implants to map every circuit, every weakness, every critical system that kept the fortress operational. The data was devastating in its completeness. Shield generators, life support, weapons control, even the location of Meridian's private quarters. "My God," breathed Captain Henriksen from the tactical station. "She's given us everything. Look at this. She's identified 17 critical choke points. If we hit them simultaneously, the entire ship becomes a floating coffin," Jackson finished grimly. His sister had always been brilliant, but this level of infiltration was beyond anything they'd hoped for. She'd turned herself into the perfect weapon, one that the enemy had unknowingly invited into their most secure facility. A new icon appeared on the display, pulsing urgent red. Another data burst, this one containing a single word that made Jackson's blood run cold. "Now. All units, this is command," he spoke into his communicator, his voice carrying across the small fleet of human ships hidden in the asteroid field. "Operation Redemption is active. Remember, we don't just rescue one person today. We cut the head off the snake that's been feeding weapons to our enemies." The Retribution shuddered as its cloaking field dissipated, revealing the cruiser to enemy sensors. Around them, 15 other ships materialized from electronic invisibility, the entire surviving fleet of the human resistance, every functional vessel they'd managed to salvage from the ashes of their civilization. Alarms began screaming aboard, the Apex as its sensor operators detected the approaching threat. Through the quantum link, Jackson felt rather than heard his sister's response to the chaos beginning around her. Inside the fortress ship's engineering section, Zara smiled as emergency klaxons wailed through the corridors. The neural collar around her neck sparked and died, its control circuits fried by a carefully crafted electromagnetic pulse she'd been building for weeks, using components scavenged from her daily work assignments. Meridian's voice echoed through the ship's communication system, his artificial harmonics distorted by rage. "All security teams to stations. We are under attack by human vessels. Eliminate any human prisoners before they can be rescued." Zara's smile widened. That was exactly what she'd been counting on. Her fingers flew across the engineering console, entering commands that would have been impossible for anyone without her hidden neural enhancements. The Apex's central computer, designed to be unhackable, fell to her assault like a house of cards. Years of studying captured alien technology while pretending to be just another broken human had given her insights that no alien engineer possessed. She uploaded a virus into the weapons control system, one disguised as a routine diagnostic update. Then she triggered a cascade failure in the shield generators, making it appear as if the human fleet's weapons were more powerful than they actually were. Finally, she activated the self-destruct sequence for the ship's main reactor, programming it to look like battle damage from the outside. The corridor outside erupted in pulse fire as Meridian's Kresh security team moved to execute their standing orders. But when they burst through the engineering lab's doors, they found only empty air where their human prisoner should have been. Zara had vanished into the maintenance shafts, carrying with her a jury-rigged plasma cutter and 17 years' worth of suppressed rage. On the Retribution's bridge, Jackson watched the impossible unfold. The Apex's weapons weren't firing, its shields were fluctuating wildly, and internal explosions were lighting up the fortress ship's hull like a deadly Christmas tree. "Sir," Torres reported with amazement, Their targeting systems are completely offline, and I'm reading massive power fluctuations throughout their ship. That's my sister, Jackson murmured with fierce pride. All ships begin docking procedures. Remember, we're not here to destroy this ship. We're here to capture it. The human fleet moved with precision born of desperation, their ships latching onto the Apex's docking ports like parasites. Boarding parties streamed through the airlocks, but instead of meeting organized resistance, they found chaos. Alien crew members ran through the corridors in panic as their supposedly impregnable fortress fell apart around them. Deep within the ship, Meridian himself stumbled through his private quarters, his cybernetic implants sparking from system overloads. The human had done something to his ship's electronic systems, some impossible feat of engineering that turned his own technology against him. Behind him, a ventilation grate fell to the floor with a metallic clang. "Hello, Thex," said a voice he'd grown to know well over the past 3 weeks. He spun around to find Zara Voss standing in his doorway, no longer the frightened slave he'd purchased. Her eyes blazed with an intelligence that made his enhanced sensors scream warnings about threat assessment. In her hands, the plasma cutter hummed with lethal energy. "You're not just an engineer," he realized, his artificial voice crackling with static. "You're military." "Former military," she corrected, stepping into the room. "Current instrument of justice. My name is Zara Voss, and you killed my world." Meridian's 4 arms reached for weapons that were no longer there, his personal armory disabled by the same viral attack that had crippled his ship. The Kepler colonies were legitimate military targets. Your species was developing weapons that threatened galactic stability. "We were defending ourselves," Zara replied, her voice deadly calm. "From arms dealers like you who sold weapons to anyone with enough credits. Do you know how many human children died from guns you manufactured?" She didn't wait for an answer. The plasma cutter's beam carved through his primary support structure, dropping the massive alien to his knees. As his cybernetic systems failed one by one, Meridian finally understood the true nature of what he'd purchased at that auction. Not a slave, not a tool. A weapon of human vengeance, aimed directly at his heart. "Your mistake," Zara said as his vision began to fade, "was thinking we were prey. Humans aren't prey, Thex. We're the other thing. The thing that hunts the hunters." When Jackson's boarding party reached Meridian's quarters 10 minutes later, they found their target unconscious, but alive, secured with his own restraints. Zara sat calmly in the arms dealer's chair, uploading data from his personal files to her neural storage. "Client lists," she explained when Jackson raised an eyebrow. "Financial records, shipping manifests. Everything we need to track down every weapon this bastard ever sold and every government that bought them." Jackson pulled his sister into a fierce embrace, feeling the tension of 3 weeks finally beginning to ease. "Are you hurt?" "Nothing that won't heal," she replied, though her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "But I think our friend here is going to have a very educational conversation with human intelligence." Around them, the Apex continued its transformation from predator to prize. Human engineers swarmed through its corridors, cataloging weapons technology and preparing the massive ship for its new role as the flagship of humanity's rebuilt fleet. The other aliens in the galaxy would learn soon enough what Meridian had discovered too late. Humanity could be enslaved, scattered, even driven to the edge of extinction. But they could never be truly defeated. Every act of cruelty only forged them into something stronger, something more dangerous. They had sold a human girl thinking they were buying property. Instead, they had purchased a lesson in why you should never underestimate the species that had clawed its way to the top of one evolutionary ladder and was now ready to climb another. The age of human weakness was over. The age of human vengeance had begun, and across the galaxy the sound of human laughter would be the last thing their enemies ever heard.